Previously on All My Backlog. Arachnid 2.0. I told you never to come here again. Our love, it is forbidden.
But Mobile Pod Verka, don't you understand? I'm pregnant!
Hello everyone and welcome back to another After Build Report review, and today we're going to be taking a look at the PolyPod Ball from Build Fighters Gimm and Ball's challenge. Now this thing is supposed to go along with the Gundam Stormbringer, which I built a while back. You can go watch my live build of that one. I didn't do a review of that one, but I do have the Stormbringer FA/Gimm Turbulence that I'm going to be doing very soon as well. So that'll go along with this model kit, which will be pretty fun. But today we're going to be looking specifically at the PolyPod Ball. This kit is based off of the Master Grade Mobile Pod Ball Verka. It's not overly complicated, but it is a lot of fun. And today we're going to talk about just how fun this thing is despite some odd limitations. So sit back, relax. We're going to talk about the build. We're going to talk about the accessories. We're going to talk about the articulation and then wrap it up with some final thoughts. So starting off talking about the build of this kit, and I think the phrase simple yet satisfying pretty much covers it. Again, this is based on the Ball Verka, which means that it is essentially about maybe 50 pieces altogether for the main part of the kit before you get to the legs, and that consists of this ball and the arms. Now, one of the things about the Ball Verka that carries over into the PolyPod Ball is the insane amount of detail that they put into the inner frame on this kit, with having the inner mechanics of the ball itself covered up by another stage of framing that the armor then attaches onto, kind of like the new Perfect Grade Unleashed, yet in convenient Master Grade ball form. Otherwise, it all just sort of comes together very solidly. There's not a lot of moving parts on this thing. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But then you get into adding the legs, where the PolyPod Ball gets its namesake, and those are a little bit more complex, but not by a whole lot. And again, they are simple yet satisfying. They do have some nice little gimmicks when it comes to sliding parts when they move, but again, we'll talk about that during the articulation part of the video. But overall, they are, again, simple yet satisfying. Overall, the build of this kit is fantastic. It feels like building a high grade almost, with the simplicity, but with the complexity of detail that you get out of a master grade, and especially a Verka master grade. That's not all to say that everything on this kit is roses. There are some unfortunate nub marks on this thing that are almost impossible to clean up. It's the green plastic, it's the fact that some of the runner connections are far thicker than I feel like they need to be, and they're all on the surface. There is no undergating on this kit, which really could have benefited it a lot. But other than those, if you just take the time to clean those up, and they won't be a problem at all, you should find that this kit is a nice, satisfying, quick build that you could throw together in an afternoon and have something that looks really cool up on yourself and really unique. So now talking about the accessories, and there's not a lot to talk about. I'm not even sure if you can call it an accessory, but there is the gun on the top of the ball that can rotate and pivot up and down. It's removable, so I suppose it's an accessory, but that's all you really get. There aren't any other accessories with this kit. You're not going to get a ton of replaceable weapons. You don't get any different hands or arms or different leg pieces. You just get what you see here, which is a satisfyingly built ball with a nice big gun on top. That's it. So with those out of the way, let's talk about the articulation of this kit. Again, you're not going to get a lot here. The front parts of the arms where the claws are can go up and down, the heads of them can twist, and the claws themselves can open and close and move up and down. That's pretty all standard, pretty basic. The base of the arms are on ball joints, but they're not fantastic, mostly because you're going to be restricted in your movements by the rubber pieces that go around the base of the arms. They tend to push the arms out of whatever pose you want to put them in, back to sort of a neutral pose. You can get the arms to hold a position, but it's a little bit on the finicky side, and they don't move all that much even when you do get them to move anyway, so there's not a lot going on there. The main articulation point points in this kit that you're going to want to play around with are in the legs. And while the legs look really cool and impressive, and I really like them, I also wish that you could get more articulation out of them. As it is, they don't really bend all that much in, they don't straighten out all the way. They do have a decent up and down range, and they do have a decent side to side range with a few points of pivot in them, but I really just kind of wish that the secondary joints that weren't right next to the main body did more. But the reason that they don't do more is because they have a cool sliding gimmick where as you bend the, we'll call it the knee, closer into the body, it does slide this piston out, which is a cool little gimmick that they really didn't need to include, but they did anyways, and I appreciate it. However, the mechanics of making that work does limit the actual movement of the joint there. I think you can get some really cool poses out of it. Again, for my money, I just wish the legs could do a little bit more and could be a little bit more dynamic. But otherwise, for the articulation for what it is on this kit, being a master grade ball with some legs, I think it's absolutely fine. So what are my final thoughts on this kit? Well, again, I go back to that phrase of simple yet satisfying, and I really do believe that that sums this thing up. It's a little hard to get your hands on, being as how it's P-Bandai and it hasn't been reissued in a couple of years, but I think if you can actually find one for a decent price, you should definitely pick it up. And if you can't get the PolyPod ball, you should definitely strive to get the normal ball Verka, maybe even the shark face variant for a little bit of variety. They're super fun, super easy kits that you can throw together in a few hours and end up with an enjoyable item that, while it's noticeable what it's from, being Gundam or some mecha anime, it's not necessarily the same generic robot that we keep seeing over and over and over again. Which is not a knock against most mecha model kits, don't get me wrong, but sometimes you do want a little bit of variety in your life, and this lets you have that variety without going out and getting something completely overblown or ridiculous. Just a nice little fantastic kit with a lot of character to it. Simple, but satisfying. So there you go. Those are my thoughts on the Gimm and Ball's Challenge P-Bandai Polypod Ball. Go out, grab one. Make sure you hit that like. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Leave me a comment down below. Let me know what you thought about this video. And most importantly, keep building.